You are Locked On Wolves Postcast, part of Locked On Minnesota on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
T-Wolves with a nice little step in the right direction tonight. We'll call it that. 2-game losing streak snapped, 122-105. That's your final in Charlotte. 3-3 now on the year. What's happening back in the lab? Back at it. Another episode of the T-Wolves Postcast. If you're new here, thanks for joining. One-stop shop. All your Timberwolves instant reaction deep dive after every single game. He's Jack Borman, Wolves expert, NBA expert. Give him a follow on X at JRBorman13. I'm Luke Inman at Luke_Spinman. And you got to follow Ben Beacon, too, host of the Locked On Timberwolves show each and every day. Find all the video right here on the Locked On Wolves YouTube channel, all the audio wherever you find your podcasts. Lots to get into, Jack. Biggest turning point from tonight. Big Ray Goo went off, maybe his best game of the season. And, of course, our game MVP. But just off the top, it really felt like a small, but nonetheless, nice step in the right direction after losing their last two, specifically on the defense side of the ball, right? Rudy Gobert, monster game in that department. And then you had guys like DDV, which we'll get into, had a great game. And I also thought there were some interesting takeaways to be had with the rotations we saw tonight, too. We can get into that. But as always, I just need your big picture, kind of 60-second knee-jerk reaction, if you will. What's the top one or two things that stuck out the most in, game 6 of the season and game 3 with no Anthony Edwards?
Yeah, like you said, it was the best defensive game of the season for the Timberwolves. Held the Hornets to under 40% shooting, less than 30% shooting from three. A lot of those were just tough shots where the Hornets couldn't really get comfortable beyond the arc, which was great to see. And then 20 points off of 14 Hornets turnovers. I know that Charlotte's been a team that's been pretty prone this season to give not only turning the ball over, but also the points off turnovers, right? They're third worst in the NBA in points off turnover differential, coming in minus 6.2 per game, and they were minus 12 tonight. So Wolves' 12-point advantage there is obviously what you want to see. And it was great to see Jalen Clark come in and provide some really good minutes. Him coming back from missing 2 games with that left calf strain, obviously concerned considering he tore that left Achilles a few years ago, but he looked fantastic. He was firmly ahead of TJ Shannon, who did not play in the second half of this game after playing in the first half. He really came in once Finch emptied the bench. But yeah, and then like you said, a season high 18 for Dante DiVincenzo, who definitely screwed up his nose in some capacity. I thought it was an excellent game from
meaty
him
tonight. That thing got meaty after that one. Woo.
Yeah, it was just great to see him come in and just keep firing from three. I think that's something that the Timberwolves sorely need. We'll get into that a little bit later. But yeah, I also thought just the best game of the season so far for Rudy Gobert, who looked, I don't want to throw the W word around, but looked a little old in that last matchup. So it was great to see him come back with just truly a dominant effort on that end of the floor, anchoring things for a Timberwolves defense that was fantastic all night long.
Let's get into the biggest turning point from tonight.
Time to reveal where the game was won or lost. It's the turning point.
So Wolves were actually down 6 at halftime, despite Naz Reid scoring like 10 straight. That helped them retake a big it was a big deficit, retake the lead in the second quarter. They kind of throw that lead away the last 4 or 5 minutes of the second quarter. And then in the third quarter, though, this looked like the old Wolves, the way they'd come out of halftime. They just go on a tear. Really, again, on fire right out of the gates. They outscore Charlotte. Let me pull it up. 36-18. When was that moment or that sequence that really helped the Wolves really start to click, I guess, and put it all together? Biggest turning point tonight. When was it and why?
Yeah, it was just coming out of the locker room in that third quarter, I think. Jaden McDaniels and Rudy Gobert both had pretty quiet first halves, and I thought the way that they just asserted themselves on both ends of the floor was really important. They accounted for 11 of the team's first 13 points, and Rudy Gobert's defense was tremendous. Contested all sorts of shots on that end, and then Jaden McDaniels, I thought, did a really good job of helping kind of funnel guys into Gobert, and then did a great job running off of stops too. I thought that those guys just buoyed everything on both ends of the floor. It was a really quick run for the Timberwolves out of the break. What was it? It was, I think it was 11-2 or 11-4 out of the break that allowed the Wolves to just erase the halftime deficit right away, and then they just totally carried that forward. I thought that Gobert too, not only on the defensive end of the floor, but offensively as well. The Timberwolves had 0 offensive rebounds in the first half of this game, and then Rudy Gobert came out had 3 really early in this quarter. Did an excellent job trailing and crashing the offensive glass to be impactful on that end of the floor. And then too, what I really appreciated as well was that the way that the Timberwolves pace just totally picked up, as a result of getting all those stops that Jaden and Rudy helped force. I thought that helped Dante get into a rhythm, who was excellent in the third quarter. I thought Rob Dillingham played really, really well off of the pace that the Timberwolves are able to play with off of stops. And I think that when you get two guys that are total game breakers defensively, at least have the potential to be total game breakers defensively, and Jaden and Rudy both firing at the same time, helping to set a tone right away out of the third quarter, I think was important. And it was clear to me that Chris Finch probably challenged both of those guys in the locker room to really come out and be impactful early on in the third quarter. And the Wolves just never really looked back. The Timberwolves, 34-16 run over the final 10 and a half minutes of that third quarter. And it was just really nice to see those guys kind of buy enough time. Jaden and Rudy buy enough time for guys like Dante and Julius to join the party. I mean, that when you look at what those 4 did, those 4 accounted for 28 of the team's 36 points in that quarter. So great to see not only Jaden but Rudy really get down and get after it.
This is the Locked On Player of the Game.
6 players, 6 in double figures tonight for the Wolves. But when it comes to game MVP tonight, Jack, got to pick one. Who was it and why?
Yeah, I think this is pretty easy for me. This is Rudy Gobert tonight. This is just a classic Rudy Gobert game in the sense of, everything that is good about Rudy Gobert was on full display in this game. I thought, not only did he do a much better job in pick and roll game with LaMelo Ball kind of, coming up a little bit higher on the drop and forcing LaMelo Ball to make those tougher skip passes over the defense. I think that he contested a lot more shots tonight than he normally does. I mean, Rudy Gobert had 11 rebounds in that third quarter alone. It's what is it for Rudy? I believe it's the 11th time in his career that he's had at least 10 rebounds in a quarter. His third time doing so with the Wolves. That's courtesy of StatHead. And he was a plus 18, played all 12 minutes in that third quarter. And I think another thing for Rudy that's been really important it was his ability to catch the ball in positions where he had an advantage, and then be able to kick the ball back out. He drew 2 and did a good job of finding 3-point shooters or just guys that kind of float around him in open space. And I thought he did a really good job of not only setting up screens for his ball handlers tonight, but also in the dribble handoff game was really effective in terms of using his body to create open space for guys on the perimeter, and then obviously made on target passes and deliveries and those types of little actions. So he was really impactful in all facets of the game, and I like to see them find him in the pick and roll too. A couple of times for him to draw fouls and then finished off that lob from Mike Conley, which was great to see. And him and Mike, I just thought had phenomenal chemistry in this game. I mean, Rudy was plus 31 in his 35 minutes. Mike was plus 18 in his 19 minutes. And just for Rudy Gobert, I mean, with Rudy on the floor tonight, like I said, he was a plus 31. They had an 88 defensive rating with Rudy on the court, and a 133 offensive rating with Rudy on the court. So it wasn't just on defense that they were really getting after it. It was on both ends. They won 97-66 in the minutes with Rudy on the court. And then with Rudy off the court, they were minus 14. They had a 150 defensive rating. So again, it wasn't just, they really felt him both when he was on the court, when he was off the court, and having a 45-point swing between being on the court and off the court is like Nikola Jokic level stuff. So the fact that they got it done on both ends with Rudy really, I think, solidifies him as the player of the game tonight.
Yeah, well said there. Plenty more deep dive from this one. I want to ask Jack about the Wolves' 3-point shooting. That's all coming up right after this. Quick reminder, tonight's episode brought to us by Monarch Money. You ever go check your bank account and go, where did my money go? Dining out, online shopping, entertainment, you name it. So easy to lose track, isn't it? That's where Monarch Money comes in. It's not just another budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, your investments, your spending all in one place. So you stop just managing your money. Instead, you start building wealth. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA at Monarch Money for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com. Code LOCKEDONNBA for half off your entire first year. This episode also brought to us by Prize Picks. Without a doubt, the most fun I've had playing daily fantasy this NBA season, because you can win up to 25 times your money. And why I love it, it's so easy. All you got to do, you select 2 or more players. You pick more or less on any given night. Plus, Prize Picks now offers Apple Pay, quick and easy deposits into your account all season long. Right now, go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA. Use the code LockedOnNBA for a first deposit match up to $100. That's promo code LockedOnNBA at prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA for a 100% bonus match up to $100. This episode also brought to us by Built. Nobody likes paying rent, but if you gotta, you might as well get something for it. That's where Built comes in. Built's changing the game by turning your rent into rewards you can actually use. When you pay rent through Built, you're in flexible points that can be redeemed for hundreds of hotels, airlines, future rent payment, your next Lyft ride, you name it, they got it. Turn your rent into rewards. Start earning points around your neighborhood. Go to joinbuilt.com/LockedOnNBA. That's joinbuilt.com/LockedOnNBA. Use the link so they know we sent you. All right, before we get into what we'll be talking about, just some quick hitters. I like to do this after every show. Some quick hitters. I got 3 guys, 3 topics, I guess. I just want your 2 cents on. First is Julius Randle, man. I'm not sure we're talking about just how great he's been, kind of picking up right where he left off last year. Number 2, I guess, more about the 3-point shooting I want to ask you, or just get your 2 cents again. You brought it up last show. I've been thinking about it. Well below their average attempts per game, it feels like. And lastly, just the rotation. Any notes on the rotation? You know, our guy, my guy, whoever you want to call him, Terrence Shannon Jr., just not getting as much run as I thought he might. On the other hand, Dillingham getting a lot of run, it feels like, as well. And Jalen Clark just seems to be the guy now in the rotation. So quick thoughts on those 3 and you know, what sticks out the most.
Yeah, I think for Julius, it's, you know, his third 30-point game in his last 4 games, and it doesn't look like he's exerting all that much energy trying to do it, right? I think the fact that it really looks like everything is kind of coming within the flow for him. I think he has a really good feel for, you know, when to spot up and take those threes that he's shot tremendously well. Made, what did he make from 3 tonight? He was 3 of 6, so he's back creeping up towards that 50% mark on the season on pretty good volume for him. And then had 7 rebounds and 4 assists. And I thought the way that the Hornets defended Randle in the early part of this game was pretty telling of who the focal point was of their defense. I mean, they were kind of just building a wall in the way that, you know, teams we've seen try to do against Ant, to try to keep him out of the paint and force the ball out of his hands. And I thought he did a great job of kicking the ball out, especially to guys like Dante DiVincenzo and Jaden McDaniels, who are more than willing to shoot threes. And I think, again, for the Timberwolves, last season they averaged just shy of 43-point attempts per game. And this season, the Timberwolves are down near 34 attempts a game, which is a pretty significant drop when you consider that you know, teams in the NBA, you know, are averaging about 38 attempts per game so far this season. Timberwolves are well below that, and they were, you know, in the top 5 or 6 in terms of 3-point attempts last season. But again, tonight they only get up 36 attempts. So last season I said they're averaging about 40. They haven't hit 40 a single time this season. And you know, again, 17 makes a great mark, but with how good of a 3-point shooting team this Timberwolves team is, and how many good shooters they have, you'd like to see them not only, you know, take more, but specifically take more in the corners. I think when you have 2 guys who are super high usage ball handlers that create advantages as often as Julius Randle and Anthony Edwards do, but even guys like Jaden McDaniels who have the ball in the middle of the floor, I think the Wolves need to do a better job of trying to find corner shooters, because it's been there for them, and they just haven't been able to generate as many of those shots. They only got up 1 corner 3 in the first half, while Charlotte got up 10. And that felt like a huge imbalance that was, pretty telling in the score when you consider that Charlotte came into this game shooting about 39% from three, one of the 5 best teams in the league. I think the Wolves just have to do a better job of either getting the ball to the slot for that one extra pass against X outs to the corner, or just get passing to the corner in general. But the Wolves did get up 5 in the second half, still only made 1 of them. So they were 1 of 6 on corner threes. You want to see a team get up at least 10 in a game is a good mark to have. But on the positive note with the 3-pointers, did make a season high 17 of them tonight. And Dante DiVincenzo made a season high 5 of them, en route to a season high 18 points for him. And I think, again, without Anthony Edwards, he's so important for not only the Timberwolves generating 3-point attempts with how much attention he draws and how, adept he's gotten at kicking the ball out. But I think, Ant's a guy who can take 10 threes in a game for you too, right? So I think Dante understanding, hey, I need, if I have any sliver of daylight, I need to get these shots up so I can also kind of play myself into a rhythm is really important. And I thought that this was a super repeatable game for Dante. I thought he had really good control of his game. He had 4 assists and no turnovers as well, which was really important. And what I thought too, I don't have all the numbers available to me right now, but I thought the Wolves got up a good number of threes when Rob Dillingham was in the game. I really liked what he did, playing off the dribble and snaking around Gobert screens, getting into the paint, and finding open guys. And I think that, this was kind of an inflection point for Rob. He grew up, like they said on the broadcast, about an hour north of Charlotte, had a bunch of family members there. And I thought it was cool of Chris Finch to give him some really important minutes in that fourth quarter, where the Timberwolves kind of helped put the game away. And the stat line might not stand out too much for Rob. He 4 points, 4 assists, 2 of 5 shooting, was +4 in his 16 minutes. But I just thought the command that he had of the offense, he looked the most comfortable he has all season long, and was really competitive on defense. I thought he did a good job of getting his hands on some kind of lazy dribbles and just forced some loose balls that were important for the second game in a row. And yeah, it's just, like you said with TJ Shannon, I think, it was a good night that Rob played really well. And so did Naz as well. Naz had 18 points at one point, had a personal 10-0 run in that second quarter. And TJ has kind of been the odd man out, considering that Jalen Clark got the bulk of those, 8th man minutes in the second half. And I think for TJ, he's just got to be more aggressive and more assertive and just doesn't look super sure of himself. But I think it'll come. We saw it in the playoffs last season. We saw it in the preseason, early on this season. And I think the Timberwolves are probably just going to go with, kind of the hot hand or the guy that looks the most comfortable off the bench in that spot between Clark and Shannon. And tonight it was Clark who had, 6 points, was a +19 in 19 minutes and did a great job on LaMelo Ball, who, again, 18 points on 19 shots, 8 assists and 3 turnovers. That's a bad game as far as LaMelo Ball goes. And Jalen Clark and Jaden McDaniels deserve a ton of credit there.
Time to reveal where the game was won or lost. It's the turning point.
Obviously, a nice little victory tonight. That's always the A topic. That's the top goal. But I think we start asking ourselves just a little bit more here as we get through game by game. Who is this team without Ant? What can they do best? How can they stay afloat? Things of that nature. And also, I'm sure we'll want to know any updates around Ant anytime it's possible as well.
Yeah, he's going to get reevaluated on Monday with that right hamstring strain. I still think next Friday is a home game for the Wolves. I think that's something that, a week from Friday is a home game for the Wolves. It's a game against the Kings. It is kind of, I want to say, would be the first game after that 2-week mark. So it will be interested to see how that shapes up for Ant. And but I think the Timberwolves are going to be conservative with him. I think the schedule here is pretty soft between now and Thanksgiving. So I think the Wolves are going to really just be pretty conservative with how they're doing things. And again, would not surprise me one bit if we don't see Ant until Friday, November 14th against the Kings, because they do have 3 days off between that game against Utah on that Monday the 10th and Friday the 14th. But yeah, that'd be huge. But again, getting Jalen Clark back is really important to add some of that defense that the Wolves are certainly missing without Ant. And hopefully they can keep it going against a Brooklyn team on Monday that has looked about as bad as any NBA team I've seen ever. So we'll see how that goes.
Well done per usual. Great stuff as always. T-Wolves bounce back with a strong win over Charlotte by double digits. Defense finally looks like their old selves tonight. 122-105. That's your final. 3-3 now on the year. Much love to all you guys, all the everydayers out there that always make us your first listen. All you guys come in the chat with us from game to game as well. Like and subscribe if you haven't already. Go follow Jack too at JRBorman13. And like you said, we'll catch you Monday at Brooklyn, 6 p.m. tip. Until then, signing out.